Have you ever felt deep inside that something powerful, yet unseen, is reshaping the world around us? Maybe you've noticed things don't quite fit together like they used to, or sensed an unspoken invitation calling you toward deeper truths. If so, you're not alone. Today we're diving into an extraordinary journey, one that reveals hidden cosmic forces influencing our everyday lives in ways you might never expect. Stick with me, because what we're about to uncover could fundamentally shift how you see yourself and the world. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why things feel so different now, and more importantly, you'll discover your role in this profound awakening that's quietly sweeping across humanity. If you're ready to see beyond the ordinary and find clarity amid the chaos, subscribe to the channel now. Your support helps us deliver the meaningful stories you won't find anywhere else. Something in the atmosphere feels palpably different, as if the threads of our shared reality are loosening and unraveling before our eyes. We sense it in the dissonance between all we have been told and the quiet, insistent voice that resonates in our bones, urging us to wake up. Around us, entire frameworks appear to be crumbling. Long-established systems crack under the weight of collective disbelief. Age-old power structures strain to sustain their once invincible aura. And even the everyday routines we assumed would carry us forward feel hollow. Yet it is essential to understand that this unraveling is not a herald of doom. On the contrary, it serves as a profound invitation. This moment, far from being a mere spectator's vantage point, is our personal entry into a grand process of cosmic realignment. We are no longer passive historians archiving events. Instead, each of us stands at the threshold of an entirely new vibrational state, a major reset in the timeline of humanity's evolution. Such transformation can look from the outside like chaos, and so many question whether the world is simply falling apart at the seams. But from a deeper perspective, something more wondrous unfolds. It is as though a hidden music calls our attention, a silent melody of possibility that we were previously too distracted to hear. The invitation is not to fear these crumbling illusions, but to harness the energy of their collapse as the raw fuel for rebirth. We often read about transformations in distant histories or grand narratives that describe epic changes in civilizations. Yet at present, we find ourselves immersed in such a shift. We can watch the breakdown of certain economic systems, the fracturing of ideological absolutes, the unearthing of cultural hypocrisies, and sense that something more profound than mere cyclical downturns is at play. It is akin to living inside a metamorphosis. We are not merely watchers from a distance. We feel the tension in our own minds, hearts, and bodies. Our emotional landscapes echo the changes swirling around us, which in turn reflect deeper cosmic transitions. These transformations are not a war cry or a clarion call to storm the gates of old institutions. Instead, the revolution commences in silence and introspection, in the tender spaces where we face our own doubts and illusions. If the older worldview promised that big changes would arrive gently and predictably, reality has shown otherwise. The future did not tiptoe to our doorstep. It broke through the barrier of the sky, unveiling layers of existence that can be unsettling, yet thrilling at the same time. And so here we stand, suspended between two realities, a world in the final throes of disintegration, and a new blueprint quietly forming just beyond our ordinary senses. When we pause to feel the stillness, we notice the collective breath of humanity, held in subtle anticipation. We sense an undercurrent that resonates more deeply than any piece of news or social media trend can convey. The tension in the air emanates from our collective awareness that reality might be more fluid, more malleable, and more prone to quantum leaps than we ever allowed ourselves to believe. We are not hallucinating. This is the prophesied shift, a vibrational turning point discussed in ancient texts and glimpsed by modern science. Yes, we stand on the precipice of an age, not the ending of history, but the birth of a new frequency, traditionally referred to as the end of Pisces and the dawning of Aquarius. This transition signifies more than just an astrological footnote. Every civilization that tracked celestial cycles understood that grand cosmic movements mirrored equally grand human transformations. Ancient seers and mystics foresaw that after thousands of years, shaped by Piscean ideals, faith devotion, and the centralization of spiritual authority, an Aquarian consciousness would inevitably emerge, emphasizing autonomy, innovation, and collaborative uplift. The friction we sense arises precisely from this interplay of old and new. We were told in more conventional narratives that change unfolds slowly, allowing ample time to plan and adjust. We might have expected a measured shift akin to a gentle tide rising gradually on a calm shore. Instead, it has arrived more like an electrical storm cracking open the sky without warning. Countless people report an internal sense of dislocation, as if the coordinates of reality itself had been scrambled. Whether in personal relationships, career paths, or spiritual yearnings, a persistent question rings out. Is there not a deeper, truer way to exist? The structures we once clung to for reassurance, a particular belief system, a rigid social hierarchy, or a well-defined national identity, reveal their fragility. In many instances, we discover we have outgrown them. We notice an expansion within ourselves that refuses to shrink back to meet the confines of old expectations. We might even experience this as a loss of interest in pursuits that once thrilled us, or an unsettling detachment from life's routines. Yet behind that restlessness lies a spark and inner knowing that a vaster horizon is calling. Often such restlessness expresses itself physically. Sleep patterns change. Emotional highs and lows intensify. Like a caterpillar dissolving in its chrysalis, our old identities liquefy, yielding confusion, but also the potential for radical renewal. This metamorphosis touches not only individuals, but entire societies. We witness cracks in once unassailable institutions, political arenas rife with public mistrust, large corporations floundering to maintain credibility, and faith-based organizations grappling to remain relevant when people crave direct spiritual connection rather than strict dogma. An undercurrent that hums beneath all of these upheavals is the notion of cosmic cycles. Modern astronomy acknowledges the phenomenon called the precession of the equinoxes, a roughly 26,000-year dance that shifts Earth's orientation toward different constellations. During this cosmic year, each sign of the zodiac influences human consciousness for about 2 to 160 years, forming an age. The age of Pisces favored devotion and hierarchical intermediaries between humanity and the sacred. Now as Earth tilts into Aquarius, we are feeling the nudge toward independence, co-creation, and alignment with higher truths that do not require external permission. The turbulence we sense daily is not random. It arises from the clash of frequencies the old orders struggle to maintain control, and a new frequency pressing in from all corners of the cosmos. This pressure compels each of us to shed layers of inherited programming, illusions of powerlessness, and borrowed beliefs that no longer resonate. Though it can feel chaotic, it is also deeply creative. The same cosmic forces that unravel old systems are enabling us to rebuild from a place of authenticity and elevated self-awareness. This birth process, while disorienting, is also supremely fertile, offering a chance to redefine who we are and what our communities might become in alignment with cosmic intention. A central hallmark of this transition is the recognition that time itself may be more cyclical and multidimensional than we once assumed. While our daily lives operate around linear clocks, ancient teachings point to vast spirals of creation and dissolution. Civilizations such as the Maya tracked these vast cycles in their calendars, marking epochs where consciousness pivoted and societies pivoted with it. We see these references everywhere in Egyptian temples, oriented to star risings in Vedic scriptures detailing yugas, and in indigenous prophecies describing times of great awakening or dormancy. By stepping out of purely linear time, we awaken to the notion that everything moves in cosmic seasons. Pisces was a season of external faith, an era emphasizing looking outward for salvation, finding spiritual truth in temples, cathedrals, or sacred texts. It was an age that fostered deep devotion, but often relinquished personal sovereignty. People entrusted truth to priests, imams, gurus, or political leaders who claimed higher authority. Now in Aquarius, personal discernment and direct knowing stepped to the forefront, while Pisces asked us to trust external saviors. Aquarius insists that we become our own stewards of knowledge. This pivot feels both exhilarating and daunting. Letting go of external scaffolding can breed uncertainty, especially for those raised in environments where deferring to authorities was equated with safety. Yet from the vantage of cosmic evolution, this shift is as inevitable as seasons turning. Faith transitions into conscious understanding, and what used to be intangible faith now seeks tangible application, science, direct intuition, or personal revelation. We see science bridging with spirituality in ways once thought impossible, whether in quantum experiments that call into question the nature of reality, or in neuroscience studies showing the tangible benefits of meditation. As we recalibrate, the entire concept of the future morphs. Instead of passively awaiting progress doled out by institutions, people realize that they are co-creators of that tomorrow. This undercurrent challenges hierarchical power dynamics that rely on an obedient populace. Many formerly content to follow or endure now question everything from political rhetoric to the viability of current economic systems. That surge of questioning is not an accident. It is the hallmark of Aquarian influence, catalyzing innovation, rebellion against stagnation, and radical reimagining of possibilities. The friction arises because old structures, rigid top-down and sometimes corrupt, cling fiercely to their place of control. They cannot easily adapt to a population that no longer fits the previous frequency. We sense those structures trembling, the illusions they upheld cannot stand in the face of widespread awakening. This does not mean total collapse necessarily, but rather a reconfiguration. Each system must either adapt to the demands of a more awakened populace or fade into irrelevance. Aquarius does not ask politely. It disrupts, illuminates, and compels transformation. For individuals, this means you might feel deep internal pressures, like your soul is pushing you out of old habits and relationships that do not match your emergent truth. Such tension is precisely the sign that you are syncing with the cosmic shift at hand, where Pisces introduced a profound need for faith and taught us empathy, compassion, and the capacity to envision a divine realm beyond our ordinary senses. Aquarius arrives to guide us from faith into direct experience. The transition is not about discarding Piscean virtues, but about integrating them with self-empowerment. During the Piscean epoch, we built magnificent cathedrals, wrote devotional hymns, and shaped moral codes that reflect high aspirations. However, this same epoch also birthed institutionalized dogma and hierarchical religions that sometimes suppressed personal exploration. In shifting to Aquarius, we do not throw away the emotional depth and spiritual richness of Pisces. We elevate them, merging heart with mind. This synergy encourages an expanded expression of human creativity, free from outdated constraints. No longer do we reflexively ask, "What does this authority say about my purpose?" Instead, we sense an internal impetus to explore purpose for ourselves. This impetus echoes in the modern surge of alternative healing practices, the popularity of yoga and meditation, the explosion of mindful living movements, and the blossoming of global interest in quantum consciousness. Yet the personal awakening we experience can initially feel unsettling. Many report that their old life, whether a stable career or a once fulfilling relationship, suddenly feels cramped and stifling. This impetus to shed the familiar for the authentic can induce grief, but it also unleashes creativity. We might find ourselves pivoting drastically, changing careers, relocating, cutting ties with dysfunctional networks, or diving into novel spiritual territories. While such transformations can look chaotic, from the outside, they are the bedrock of a more liberated society, anchored in internal sovereignty rather than external mandates. Collectively, we face parallel transitions. Financial models built on competition and debt appear increasingly fragile. Political frameworks once deemed unassailable are exposed for deep corruption or inefficiency. Even academic and religious institutions find themselves challenged by a populace that demands transparency, authenticity, and synergy with evolving moral principles. While fear of the unknown can prompt some to cling desperately to old illusions, the broader wave carries us forward. We see glimpses of new prototypes, cooperative communities, open-source technologies, and integrative medicine bridging Western science with ancient wisdom. Aquarius's call is to unify these strands, not in a forced or dogmatic manner, but through genuine resonance. A hallmark of the Aquarian mindset is embracing paradox. We can celebrate both the rational and the mystical, the personal and the communal, the ancient and the futuristic. Where Pisces taught us to look up for answers, Aquarius teaches us to look both inward and outward, harnessing technology and reason while honoring the deep wisdom that wells up from our own hearts. In the face of so much unraveling, the path forward is not passivity or nihilism, but a joyful, if at times tumultuous, co-creation of the next epoch. In short, we have reached a juncture where we either remain shackled to patterns that no longer serve humanity's evolution, or we shed these shackles to stand in a vibrational alignment that echoes cosmic orchestration. The shift is real, immediate, and unstoppable, not because a few proclaim it, but because countless individuals sense it in the very core of their being. Looking deeper, we recognize that the cosmic phenomenon known as the precession of the equinoxes is no mere superstition. It is a subtle but measurable motion in Earth's orientation that takes roughly 25,920 years to complete one cycle. Our ancestors built monumental structures such as the Great Pyramid of Giza, Angkor, Wat Stonehenge to track these grand cycles. Why devote so much labor to watch the heavens if it were mere superstition, because they understood time not as a linear path, but as a spiraling dance, each arc offering a new cosmic note that resonates with human consciousness? Under Pisces, we experienced an era characterized by faith by the fish symbol and by an undercurrent of emotional and mystical searching. Many established religions expanded during this age, providing comfort and meaning to countless souls. Yet these same institutions sometimes discouraged personal empowerment, veering toward hierarchy or dogma. Pisces bestowed upon us the language of longing, devotion, and compassion, virtues that remain profoundly relevant. However, the cosmos in its steady dance has tilted us into the next arc, Aquarius. Aquarius stands as the water bearer, an archetypal figure that pours out knowledge not to control, but to elevate. Consider how modern life is shaped by the flow of information, unstoppable and wide-ranging through the internet and digital platforms. The Aquarian hallmark is the decentralization of authority. Where Pisces might revolve around a central figure or a single holy book, Aquarius invites many voices and many pathways. Rather than faith in external saviors, it suggests awakening your internal sage. Because of this shift, many individuals feel compelled to question traditions they once accepted without hesitation, perhaps a family religion, a nationalistic worldview, or a corporate ladder career path. This questioning is not negative rebellion. It is the heart of Aquarian self-discovery. Uranus, the planet ruling Aquarius, symbolizes shock and revelation, breaking stale patterns to illuminate hidden truths. While these disruptions can unsettle us, they also set us free, sparking collective conversations about sustainability, equality, and the nature of human potential. By standing in this corridor of time, we see the old frequency weakening. Institutions built on fear, scarcity, and command gradually lose resonance with a population that feels an inner urge toward collaboration, transparency, and well-being. Politics polarized along outdated lines show diminishing returns. Media empires built on sensationalism face crumbling trust. Even academic circles must grapple with emerging frontiers like consciousness research or holistic health that challenge conventional paradigms. What emerges in this vacuum is not anarchy, but possibility. New forms of leadership arise, servant leaders, individuals who fuse empathy with innovation. Grassroots communities explore alternative economies grounded in cooperation. Spiritual gatherings shift from being run by rigid authorities to inclusive circles, emphasizing shared experiences of the sacred. In essence, the pivot from Pisces to Aquarius fosters a reimagining of human structures that empower rather than constrict. Though the letting go of the old can be wrenching, the cosmic impetus remains unstoppable. As Earth aligns with new star constellations, our collective mind aligns with new frequencies that demand a more expansive, integrative approach to life on this planet. During transitional epochs, phenomena that once languished on the fringes, such as astrology or quantum entanglement, resurface in the mainstream with new relevance. For a long time, Western culture mocked astrology as an unscientific relic. But the ancients who charted celestial movements meticulously saw astrology not as fortune-telling, but as a map of energetic influences. Modern physics, especially quantum theory, hints at a universe more akin to an interconnected web than an inanimate machine. Particles appear to respond to observation, and entangled particles defy conventional notions of time and space. These findings echo the mystics who for millennia have taught that separation is ultimately an illusion. Imagine for a moment that every celestial body, planets, moons, comets, emits frequencies that subtly affect Earth's biosphere. We already accept that the moon governs ocean tides, influencing marine life, and some argue human emotional cycles. Solar flares and cosmic rays can disrupt electronics and possibly our mental states. Now push that perspective a step further. If we each carry electromagnetic fields, then cosmic shifts may stir. Emotions reveal dormant patterns or accelerate spiritual evolution. This is where a deeper astrology converges with cutting-edge physics and astronomy of the soul, as it is sometimes called. This concept challenges the linear materialist worldview, prompting us to see ourselves as active participants in cosmic rhythms. Far from negating free will, these influences invite us to cultivate inner awareness. When Saturn, the archetype of structure and discipline, exerts a strong influence, we might feel restricted or tested, spurring us to refine our plans or deepen our maturity. When Uranus, the archetype of revolution, becomes prominent, we might experience sudden revelations or breakthroughs. While such correlational thinking was once dismissed as superstition, the more we learn about consciousness entanglement, the less we can claim that we exist in isolation from the cosmos. Furthermore, quantum experiments highlight the idea that reality remains in a state of potential until observed. Could this apply on a grand scale? Could humanity's collective attention or intention help shape events? Mystics from multiple traditions have long said yes, that our focused consciousness can literally shift probabilities. We see modern glimpses of this in mass meditation experiments, where communities focusing on peace appear to correlate with reduced local crime rates. While debates about causation persist, the phenomenon sparks curiosity about the real power of consciousness. All this aligns with the age of Aquarius, which thrives on synergy between intuition and science. Where past ages may have forced an either-or choice, believe in spirit or believe in science, Aquarius calls for both and. We can appreciate empirical data and also honor the subjective realms of dreams, synchronicities, and soul callings. In bridging these domains, we transcend old dichotomies. The cosmos ceases to be an impersonal machine, transforming into a living tapestry in which each star, each planet, and each being is a luminous thread. For those tuned into the new frequency, the question is not merely, are these influences real, but how deeply do they live within us? Parallel to cosmic perspective is the reconnection with Earth's living consciousness, an idea that modernity largely overlooked. Indigenous cultures worldwide, however, have continuously taught that Earth, often referred to as Pachamama Gaia, or Mother Earth, is alive and aware. The Gaia hypothesis, introduced by scientist James Lovelock, echoes that the planet self-regulates to sustain life, hinting at an overarching intelligence. As anthropocentric perspectives falter, more people realize Earth is not an inert globe for endless extraction, but an intricate biosphere that responds to our collective energy. This reclamation of reverence for Earth ushers in an era of ecological responsibility. Suddenly, climate shifts are not purely about data points on carbon charts. They are calls for harmony from a living organism. We find ourselves yearning for nature, craving quiet forests, open sky, and unpolluted waters, even if we reside in megacities. This yearning arises from the part of us that resonates with Earth's heartbeat. Scientific measurements show that the Schumann resonance, Earth's electromagnetic hum, influences human physiology. Spikes in that resonance can coincide with amplified human emotional states, intensifying both light and dark energies. Such phenomena recalibrate how we consume. If Earth is alive and intimately interwoven with us, then every product we purchase or every meal we eat involves an energetic exchange. Spiritual traditions have always recognized the importance of blessing food or expressing gratitude before meals. Now, Aquarian consciousness frames these acts not as quaint rituals, but as ways to align with higher frequencies of compassion and respect. We start to see that industrial-scale meat production or the ruthless exploitation of forests carry damaging energetic imprints. This leads to a collective rethinking might dietary and lifestyle shifts done in large numbers reduce harm and increase planetary coherence. Indeed, a broad shift in consumption is already underway, reflected by the popularity of plant-based diets, regenerative agriculture, and zero-waste initiatives. Critics may see these movements as fads, but on an energetic level, they signal the re-emergence of a sacred bond between humanity and Earth. This shift is not about moral grandstanding, I'm better than you because I eat this way, but about remembering our role as stewards of life's tapestry. If Earth is an extension of our consciousness, harming her is tantamount to harming ourselves. Conversely, nurturing her fosters not only her healing but our collective vibrational uplift. As more souls embrace an ecologically attuned lifestyle, the synergy between personal healing and planetary healing becomes evident. Spending time in natural settings, walking barefoot or gardening can soothe the nervous system battered by modern overstimulation. These intuitive steps to ground ourselves overlap seamlessly with the Aquarian call for deeper authenticity. When we stand on grass or sand, feeling Earth's gentle charge, we realign with primal rhythms. The long-lost memory of oneness resurfaces. In that moment, the illusions of disconnection crack, replaced by a quiet certainty we are part of Earth, part of the cosmos, and as we ascend in consciousness, so does she, and vice versa. Along with ecological realignment, the age of Aquarius illuminates our relationship with technology. Historically, each leap in technology has reshaped civilization, often outpacing ethical discussions on how best to harness it. Now, our devices connect us instantly across continents, AI begins to rival human creativity, and social media saturates nearly every sphere of discourse. This lightning-fast development raises questions. Does technology liberate our minds or enslave us? Does it empower us to share wisdom, or does it lull us into complacent scrolling? The answer from an Aquarian vantage depends on our collective consciousness. Technology is in essence an amplification tool. If used in alignment with higher ideals, transparency, compassion-awakened presence, it can dissolve barriers, unite distant communities, and swiftly disseminate life-saving or enlightening information. But if used carelessly, it can become a manipulative force, selling illusions, eroding attention spans, and feeding addictive patterns. We can liken this to the discovery of fire harnessed well. It cooks meals and warms households. Applied destructively, it burns villages. Aquarius demands accountability. It spotlights the underlying intention behind code algorithms and innovation. Imagine a scenario where algorithms are designed to highlight genuinely helpful healing content rather than fueling outrage for clicks, or where AI systems are guided by moral frameworks that reflect humanity's highest values rather than corporate profit alone. Such shifts require that individuals from software engineers to CEOs operate with awakened discernment. In old paradigms, profit overshadowed principle. The emerging Aquarian ethos calls for synergy, ensuring that technology serves as an extension of consciousness rather than a means of control. Quantum entanglement again becomes a metaphor. We are not separate from our creations. The digital realm we craft reflects our collective mental and emotional state. If we approach new tech with fear or greed, that frequency imprints on its development. Conversely, if we cultivate mindful intention, we pave the way for technology that liberates, heals, and fosters deeper human connections. Already, pockets of innovation demonstrate this potential: conscious social platforms, open-source knowledge bases, philanthropic tech initiatives, and digital collaborations that transcend national or ideological boundaries. At the intersection of technology and spirituality lies an unprecedented opportunity, using AI and data analytics to better understand global consciousness patterns, or employing virtual reality to immerse individuals in meditative or therapeutic experiences. The question is not whether machines can surpass human intellect, but whether we might forfeit our innate sacred intelligence, our capacity for empathy, creativity, and moral insight by becoming overly reliant on them. Aquarius urges us to remember that no machine can replicate the divine spark within us. Our capacity to love, to dream, to empathize remains a uniquely human domain. Thus, the call of Aquarius in the digital age is to elevate technology to a tool of co-creation. We do not fear it, but neither do we bow to it as our master. We become guardians of frequency, infusing code with heart-centered ethics, ensuring each app or platform can become a vessel for awakening rather than sedation. Through this lens, our digital footprints become stepping stones in humanity's collaborative evolution rather than distractions from it. Within this vast tapestry, the resonance of ancient civilizations resurfaces, beckoning us to recall wisdom we assumed lost. Terms like Atlantis, Lemuria, and Kemet, early Egypt pique our curiosity because they evoke epochs rumored to have bridged science and spirit seamlessly. Plato's description of Atlantis offered a glimpse into an advanced society that collapsed under moral decay. Whether literal or mythological, it illustrates a cyclical theme. Civilizations can rise to magnificent heights when technology and consciousness unify, yet can fall swiftly if ethics erode. Various cultures hold similar stories. The Sumerians spoke of gods descending from the stars. The Mayans referenced cosmic visitors in their artwork, and many indigenous peoples maintain lore of star ancestors. Modern science might look upon these as symbolic or allegorical. Yet as we investigate quantum realities and cosmic energies, the lines between myth and advanced knowledge blur. Could it be that these legends are fragments of a deeper memory, one that points to the sophisticated interplay of frequency architecture and planetary alignment that previous human societies once mastered, from the Great Pyramid at Giza, aligned with stellar constellations and embodying the golden ratio, to the meticulously planned Angkor temples mirroring the Draco constellation? The ancient world speaks through geometry and resonance. The modern mind, conditioned to label these wonders as mere superstition, misses the possibility that these structures served as nodal points of cosmic communion. We marvel at their engineering without acknowledging that perhaps they were built not simply to display might, but to align earthly and celestial frequencies, facilitating cultural and spiritual enlightenment. Now, as Earth tilts toward Aquarius, these echoes resurface. People experience spontaneous awakenings, dreams filled with ancient symbols, déjà vu upon seeing certain monuments, or an unexplainable pull towards certain traditions. All these are coded memories. The cyclical nature of cosmic time suggests that knowledge never vanishes. It only goes dormant, awaiting an era in which humankind is ready to grasp and apply it again. The swirl of modern interest in crystal healing, sacred geometry, and vibrational medicine may not be fetish nonsense, but a stirring recollection of times when such practices flourished. Embracing this perspective entails merging new technologies like AI and quantum computing with the subtle spiritual sciences that our ancestors intuited. Rather than dismissing old lore as primitive myth, we could interpret it as advanced knowledge preserved in symbolic form. From sonic healing to architecture designed to direct energy, the possibilities remain staggering, but only if we approach them with humility and open-mindedness. Nostalgia for a lost golden age becomes fruitful when it transitions into creative impetus, incorporating ancient insights with modern breakthroughs to forge a future that balances the rational and the mystical. In this view, the ancients are not curiosities from a less developed world. They can be seen as forerunners or even reminders that true advancement arises when spirit and science converge in harmony. And so, Aquarian energies nudge us to retrieve and decode what was never truly lost, integrating it into contemporary life. Through remembering, we step beyond a linear sense of progress, weaving past present and future into an ever-evolving spiral of collective awakening. A critical piece of this expansive puzzle is the reemergence of the divine feminine. For centuries, many patriarchal societies suppressed feminine qualities, intuition, empathy, receptivity, creation without control, leading to pronounced imbalances. We see echoes of this in the disregard for emotional intelligence, the devaluation of caregiving roles, and the mechanistic exploitation of Earth's resources. Yet, just as any pendulum swing eventually reverses course, we observe a growing call for the feminine principle to rebalance the masculine structures that have dominated cultural narratives. This resurgence is not about pitting genders against each other, nor is it limited to women's rights alone. It is about reclaiming the archetypal feminine energy that resides in all humans. The masculine principle is indispensable. It builds forms, organizes, and takes decisive action. But the feminine principle breathes life into those forms, offers nurturing and emotional depth, and reminds us that true strength can be found in stillness and surrender. Spiritual traditions across the globe, from the ancient Egyptian reverence for Isis to the Hindu worship of Shakti, have extolled feminine deities who represent creation, destruction, and renewal. Modern society experiences this feminine return in multiple ways. The shift toward holistic healthcare, the inclusion of emotional intelligence in educational curricula, the normalization of conversations around mental health, and the slow but steady representation of female voices in leadership roles worldwide. In parallel, we see men unlearning rigid stereotypes, allowing themselves vulnerability and tenderness. Religious texts that once carried only masculine pronouns for the divine increasingly acknowledge a more inclusive or feminine aspect. Each expression underscores the truth that the feminine is not less than, but an essential half of wholeness. This also correlates with Earth's reawakening. The divine feminine is often represented as Gaia, or Mother Earth, the womb from which all life emerges. Ignoring that womb has led to ecological catastrophes and spiritual voids. Consequently, rebalancing the feminine within us mirrors our collective attempts to restore harmony to natural ecosystems. In daily life, this might look like practicing cyclical self-care, honoring intuitive insights, or adopting circular economic practices reminiscent of nature's cycles. The Age of Aquarius amplifies these feminine values by dissolving outdated patriarchy that relies on external domination. Aquarius thrives on collaboration, community, and forging authentic connections, qualities that resonate with the feminine drive for unity and nurturance. We witness it in workplaces that prize emotional well-being alongside productivity and social movements that highlight community building over conquest, and in spiritual circles that reintroduce goddess archetypes or lunar worship. Far from a fleeting trend, the feminine resurgence is integral to the cosmic balancing act. Where society once championed speed achievement and linear logic, we now make space for rest intuition and spiral-like growth. This synergy fosters a new generation, unafraid to blend masculine clarity with feminine empathy, a wholeness that can reshape leadership, relationships, and the planet's trajectory. In essence, as we awaken to the new frequency, we not only rediscover ancient civilizations' deeper knowledge, but also the vital timeless power of the feminine principle. By reuniting both energies, the world can finally catch its breath and remember how to live in alignment with the cosmic dance of creation. The interplay between spirituality and performance offers a window into how our society has at times commercialized enlightenment. For centuries, religious hierarchies adorned themselves with robes, collected followers, and wielded influence. In modern times, this dynamic resurfaces through social media influencers, claiming spiritual authority or large-scale spiritual events that look more like a brand campaign than a path to self-realization. Recognizing these patterns is not about casting aspersions on all organized spirituality, but about acknowledging the human ego's capacity to harness any movement, even genuine awakening for personal gain or image crafting. Once the world began to wake up to subtle realities beyond the strictly material, a market for quick-fix enlightenment emerged. Mantras and crystals, sacred ceremonies, 5-step paths to bliss, many were sold as instant cures. For a while, this booming spiritual marketplace seemed to fill a legitimate need. People sought deeper meaning in a materialistic culture. Yet it also risked overshadowing the honest, often challenging process of transformation. True awakening rarely looks like a glossy Instagram post. It can involve raw nights of tears, confronting shadows you never knew existed, and carrying forward with courage, even when nobody is cheering you on. Human nature, particularly guided by the ego, often seeks the fastest route to any goal. Yet the process of actual spiritual depth does not adhere to a consumer model. One cannot buy shadow work or pay someone else to ascend on one's behalf. Rituals and teachers can guide, but ultimately each person must face their own illusions, release their traumas, and cultivate inner awareness. The age of Aquarius calls forth this realization of personal responsibility. No guru, no system, no brand can offer you true wholeness unless you do the inner work. This challenge shatters illusions that spiritual growth can be mass-produced or neatly packaged. Observe how authentic initiations across world traditions, shamanic journeys, monastic vows, or silent retreats often involve solitude, discomfort, or facing something deeply personal. The outward ceremonies might help anchor the experience, but the real transformation is invisible, unfolding in the heart and psyche. Meanwhile, perfunctory spiritual tourism may generate fleeting highs without lasting change. The Aquarian shift, with its emphasis on integrity, dissolves the glamour of spiritual facades. People can increasingly sense when a so-called teacher operates from ego rather than empathy. This disillusionment, though initially painful, serves a vital function. It strips away the ornamental layers of spirituality, compelling you to discover the raw core of truth within yourself. In prior ages, priests or institutions dictated the shape of devotion. Now Aquarius demands direct internal communion. While external guidance has its place, the final arbiter is your own resonance and discernment. You may attend a workshop or read a book that resonates powerfully, but the validation arises not from the teacher's charisma, but from an inner sense of alignment. From another angle, the shift also reveals the pitfalls of idolizing any teacher or figure. Numerous spiritual communities have crumbled under scandals, typically stemming from the unchecked ego of a charismatic leader or the blind faith of followers. Aquarius insists we each cultivate sovereignty where we can benefit from teachers, yet maintain discernment. This synergy neutralizes the pedestal dynamic, forging mutual respect. No single authority can overshadow your unique path. Thus, the facade of performative spirituality collapses when confronted by genuine self-awareness. The quest for followers or the chase for spiritual clout lose their appeal in the face of an inner voice that longs for authenticity, not applause. Real awakening, as many mystics across eras have attested, involves a death of sorts, the dissolution of one's old identities, beliefs, and protective shells. Contrary to the glossy marketing that might promise constant bliss, authentic transformation can be messy and profound. It brings you face to face with your psyche's darkest corners, unveiling traumas, inconsistencies, and attachments. The ego, which thrives on control and validation, often panics when confronted with the soul's rawness. That panic can manifest as resistance, denial, or projection onto others. In many spiritual traditions, this stage is described as the dark night of the soul, a phrase popularized by St. John of the Cross. In Eastern contexts, it might be a period of intense karmic unraveling. Regardless of terminology, the hallmark is a sensation that everything previously stable is crumbling. You might lose your sense of direction, questioning reality itself. Old friends may not understand you, and you may not know how to articulate your inner upheaval. This isolation can magnify the pain, yet within such tumult lies an invaluable opportunity. Stripped of illusions, you tap into reservoirs of authenticity. It can feel like a breakdown, but in truth it's the initiation into something more real. Religious literature is filled with stories of prophets and saints who endured extreme despair or confusion before emerging with clarity and compassion. Their suffering wasn't punishment. It was purification, an alchemical process to transform the mundane self into a vessel for higher wisdom. During these phases, external recognition offers little solace. Prestige, wealth, or popularity cannot soothe the existential anguish that arises when the deeper layers of your being stir. This is why awakening is rarely comfortable. It dismantles everything you once leaned upon. However, the Aquarian age invites a reinterpretation of this difficulty. Rather than a cruel test, it's a biological, emotional, and spiritual recalibration. On a biological level, your nervous system adapts to higher vibrations, which can manifest as physical fatigue, insomnia, or heightened sensitivity. Emotionally, you release pent-up grief or ancestral imprints. Spiritually, you begin to sense reality beyond the linear constraints of time and matter. For some, these symptoms spark fear: am I ill? Am I losing my mind? Yet if approached with understanding through rest, mindful practices, or supportive communities, this period transitions from meltdown to a breakthrough. You realize you are not malfunctioning, but upgrading. Even Western psychological fields now observe spiritual emergencies, acknowledging that certain crises mark the unveiling of deeper consciousness rather than purely pathological breakdowns. The work is not glamorous. Rather than ascending out of humanity, you plunge deeper into it, embracing raw vulnerability. You might find moments when tears flow unexpectedly or joyous laughter erupts at the sheer beauty of existence. Such polarity reflects the soul's broader capacity to experience. Freed from the ego's constraints, you discover an inner resilience that doesn't rely on external scaffolding. This is not about arrogance or superiority. It's about quiet confidence that your worth is no longer tethered to material success or social approval. As the old shell peels away, you may feel intense compassion, not just for yourself, but for the universal journey every soul undertakes. Awakening to your own struggles fosters empathy for others navigating their shadows. In that empathy, the concept of separation erodes. You see that everyone is grappling with illusions, no matter how composed they appear. And so the very darkness you feared becomes the gateway to a more expansive, unified perspective. Aquarian energy, with its focus on unveiling truth, confronts us with the long-hidden aspects of our psyche. Those dimensions Carl Jung referred to as the shadow. These might include repressed anger, deep-seated shame, or unresolved trauma. We often spend years ignoring or justifying these facets. Perhaps we rationalize them as just the way things are, or project them onto others, blaming external circumstances for our own inner turmoil. Yet the age of revelation spares no corner. Pisces may have allowed for illusions to persist under banners of faith or devotion, offering comfort in external absolution. But Aquarius propels us to stand in radical honesty, acknowledging that the illusions we carry inside perpetuate illusions in the external world. When we cling to beliefs that keep us small or victimized, we reinforce systems that disempower. The meltdown of old structures echoes our personal meltdown of identifications. The upheaval is mirrored inside and out. Shadow work is not about condemnation, it's about integration. In the same way that nighttime darkness does not vanish under the sun but recedes into a different form, our shadows become transformed by awareness. The process demands self-compassion. Many people fear delving into painful memories, associating them with judgment or punishment. But from a therapeutic or spiritual perspective, awareness is the first step in liberation. We can't transcend what we refuse to acknowledge. Consider how unacknowledged shame can sabotage relationships or creative projects. Unresolved rage might lead to chronic stress affecting physical health. Attempting to plaster positive thinking over these festering wounds might temporarily mask symptoms, but seldom heals the root cause. True healing arises from allowing ourselves to feel the dormant anger, sorrow, or disappointment, receiving it without condemnation until it begins to release. This echoes the principle that the only way out is through a common refrain in deep psychological or spiritual work. In an Aquarian framework, we see that every personal insight shifts the collective field. When you dismantle your personal illusions, you no longer feed the larger illusions that might manifest in politics, media, or social norms. This dynamic underscores why internal work, once seen as self-indulgent, emerges as a pivotal form of activism. Healing your anger or shame influences not only your immediate circle, but also ripples into broader cultural narratives, albeit subtly. This is not a simple formula, of course. The road can be messy with patterns you thought resolved, re-emerging at deeper layers. But each re-emergence invites a new level of mastery. We're not stuck in a loop. We're tracing a spiral, revisiting old wounds from a higher vantage point each time. Patience becomes the watchword. Glorified quick fixes rarely reach the soul's depths. In light of such soul work, compassion transforms from a pleasant ideal to an experiential reality. When we see how challenging it is to face our shadows, we soften toward others struggling with theirs. Thus, the harsh judgments or us versus them mentalities give way to empathy. In religious traditions that emphasize confession, penance, or forgiveness, the underlying principle is consistent. Honesty sets the stage for grace. In the Aquarian sense, honesty with oneself sets the stage for an expanded vibrational freedom. Each time a shadow is met with light and compassion, the illusions that keep us separate crack, and we move closer to embodying the truth of oneness. As we wade through these layers of personal and collective shadows, we begin to comprehend why the Age of Aquarius has been described not as a mere chronological marker, but as a grand reorientation of human consciousness. Beyond the specifics of planetary motions and cosmic cycles, a deeper invitation surfaces: know thyself. Religious philosophies, from Socrates' dialogues to the inscriptions on temple walls in ancient Greece, have championed self-knowledge as the pinnacle of wisdom. Yet in a consumer-driven, externally validated world, we often gather knowledge about everything except ourselves. Pisces cultivated a deep sense of longing, devotion, and willingness to trust a higher power. Now, Aquarius urges us to extend that devotion inward, discovering that we too harbor a direct line to the divine or the universal field. This goes beyond simply gleaning intellectual insights like personality quizzes or job aptitudes. Real self-knowledge peels back the layers of inherited beliefs, societal conditioning, and familial expectations to reveal the authentic essence behind them. Typically, we approach such inquiries only when crises shake our worldview. Now, however, the cosmic environment itself accelerates these revelations. Tools for self-discovery abound: meditation, breathwork, journaling, talk therapy, somatic healing, dream analysis, or simply embracing stillness in nature. Each method provides a mirror. In older times, monasteries or esoteric schools guided adherents through structured paths. The Aquarian era democratizes these opportunities, granting vast access to teachings through the internet courses and global communities. Yet the availability of methods poses its own paradox. With so many choices, how do we avoid superficial dabbling? The answer lies in sincerity. A consistent, dedicated practice, be it a daily meditation or reflective writing, becomes a container for real transformation. This approach fosters emotional intelligence, a skill once dismissed in rationalist societies. Emotional intelligence teaches us to differentiate among feelings, to recognize how certain triggers correlate with underlying needs or wounds, and to respond rather than react. For example, envy might reveal an unmet desire for self-expression. Anger could highlight a boundary violation. Instead of labeling these emotions as bad, we observe them as signals from our psychic terrain. Over time, this practice fosters calm confidence because we no longer fear the unpredictable currents of feeling. At a collective level, widespread self-knowledge can alter how communities function. Education can shift from rote memorization to nurturing curiosity and introspection. Workplaces might value personal alignment and well-being over mere productivity. Politics might embrace empathy and listening, forging solutions that resonate with shared human needs. It sounds idealistic, but imagine how quickly social tension might ease if a critical mass of individuals consistently processed their triggers rather than unloading them onto others. The synergy of so many awakened hearts and minds would be incalculable. Ultimately, Aquarian self-knowledge is not an isolated journey. While the quest for personal truth is intensely individual, each breakthrough forms part of a broader mosaic. The community of seekers, thinkers, and feelers grows daily, creating a gravitational pull toward more authentic and soul-aligned ways of living. The process does not promise an end to struggle. Rather, it equips us with a more conscious relationship to it. In alignment with cosmic frequencies, each challenge transforms into a stepping stone for deeper integration, reminding us that we are capable of rewriting the script of our experiences in real time. One of the paradoxes we face is that in discovering our deeper truth, we often realize how limiting labels and identities can be. Our modern world thrives on categorization. Professional titles, personality types, spiritual designations. We claim these as anchor points in a chaotic environment, forgetting that each label is a snapshot rather than the totality of who we are. By the time we have become comfortable with one identity, we may have already internally evolved. Thus, the age of Aquarius champions fluidity, gently nudging us to release rigid identifications that hinder our growth. Historically claiming an identity as I am this or that provided structure in times when security was paramount. Yet, as we transition into a frequency that values expansion, these same identities can become barriers confining us to roles that no longer reflect our evolving essence. Consider how many individuals, after dedicating decades to a single career or belief system, suddenly feel stifled. The soul yearns to explore new terrains, but the label they have embraced weighs them down. This journey of detaching from identity doesn't imply discarding everything. Rather, it means recognizing that each label, whether it's teacher, mother, artist, engineer, introvert, extrovert, represents one lens among many. The real you cannot be encapsulated by a single descriptor because you are a constantly unfolding story, intimately woven with universal consciousness. Spiritual teachings about impermanence or emptiness highlight this exact principle that form changes, that we are more than the sum of our temporary roles. Western psychology speaks of personal reinvention, while Eastern philosophy suggests we wear illusions like masks. Both hints converge in Aquarian philosophy, proposing we treat these identities lightly, like costumes donned for certain life acts. We can embrace them when useful, yet release them when they no longer serve. Indeed, this can be disconcerting as the ego clings to the sense of definition. But from a cosmic viewpoint, it's liberating. Each breath can recalibrate who we choose to be, unbound by old narratives. Such freedom also fosters compassion for others. When we stop over-identifying with a role, we understand that others too are more than their exterior labels. We see beyond stereotypes, gender, race, religion, orientation, and glimpse the underlying consciousness in each. This perspective dissolves prejudices and fosters a sense of unity. Instead of clashing with the other, we recognize mirrored facets of ourselves in them, leading to more constructive dialogue and inclusive solutions for collective issues. On a practical level, transcending rigid identities might look like exploring multiple careers over a lifetime or adopting spiritual practices from diverse traditions without feeling contradictory. It might involve expressing fluidity in relationships or adopting flexible living arrangements. The age of Aquarius does not demand chaos or rootlessness. It suggests authenticity. If you realize your heart calls for art after decades in finance, or if you find fresh spiritual insight in a tradition foreign to your upbringing, you are honoring the current's push toward expansion. Ultimately, this fluid sense of identity harmonizes with the cosmic energy of becoming. The cosmic flow does not remain stagnant. It ebbs, surges, and shifts. By allowing ourselves the grace to evolve, we align our microcosmic transformations with the grand cosmic dance. As we delve further, our attention returns to Mother Earth, the living being who nurtures and mirrors our evolutionary steps. Rather than a static stage for human drama, Earth is recognized by many spiritual and indigenous traditions as an active consciousness intimately responsive to our collective state of mind and heart. The Hopi speak of her as an ever-listening elder. The Andean peoples refer to Pachamama as a creative matrix. James Lovelock's Gaia hypothesis merges this mystical view with scientific observation, unveiling Earth's capacity to self-regulate temperature, atmosphere, and more. Yet modern industrial pursuits ravaged this relationship. Mining, deforestation factory, farming, and pollution reflect a worldview fixated on short-term gains. We treated Earth like a warehouse of commodities, ignoring the spiritual repercussions. The global crisis, ranging from climate change to mass extinctions, has begun forcing a re-evaluation. Scientific data and spiritual wisdom converge to show that living in disharmony with Earth's rhythms disrupts not only ecosystems, but also our mental and emotional stability. Increasing stress, anxiety, and health issues can be viewed in part as the psychosomatic echo of a planet under strain. In contrast, individuals who rekindle their connection with nature often report profound healing. Simple acts like forest bathing, where one mindfully walks among trees, or gardening can significantly alleviate symptoms of depression or anxiety. This is not magical thinking, it's resonance. As electromagnetic beings, our frequencies attune to the Earth's Schumann resonance around 7.83 Hz. When Earth's field destabilizes, we feel it viscerally. Conversely, when we slow down to match Earth's calm waves, we realign physically and psychologically. Such realignment prompts more conscientious lifestyles. Suddenly, the idea of throwing garbage into a landfill or consuming plastic packaged items mindlessly feels jarring. Veganism, or at least reducing animal product consumption, gains momentum not solely because of moral arguments, but also because these changes resonate with compassion that arises from a heightened sense of interconnection. The heart, previously numbed by convenience, awakens to the hidden suffering embedded in industrial processes. New paradigms in ecology, such as regenerative farming, highlight that we can restore soil health, capture carbon, and promote biodiversity, all while producing nutritious food. When harnessed with respect for local ecosystems, technology becomes a tool for harmony rather than exploitation. A shift from extractive to regenerative models underscores Aquarian thinking. In action, synergy replaces dominance. Cooperation replaces competitiveness. Earth ceases to be a commodity, metamorphosing into a sacred partner in humanity's spiritual quest. The synergy extends to water usage, energy consumption, and city planning. Urban developers incorporate green corridors, vertical gardens, and mindful architecture that resonates with Earth's geometry, forging spaces that calm rather than stress the human nervous system. Glimpses of these future cities, sometimes called eco-cities, appear in pockets around the globe, embodying the possibility of living in a loop that recycles nutrients, water, and materials. It's crucial to note that this is not about romanticizing an idyllic past, but about integrating ancient wisdom with forward-thinking solutions. By acknowledging Earth's living intelligence, we begin to mirror that intelligence in our institutions, forging cycles of replenishment rather than depletion. This reorientation is not only ecological, but spiritual, reinforcing the realization that we too are an extension of Earth's consciousness. When we anchor ourselves in her rhythms, we ground the cosmic frequencies pouring in from the greater galaxy, thereby stabilizing the shift for all life. Many of these shifts in perspective accelerate the conversation around conscious consumption, especially regarding food and lifestyle choices. For decades, mainstream culture framed consumption as purely an individual preference. Eat whatever you like, purchase whatever brand, so long as you can afford it. The Age of Aquarius reframes consumption as a moral, even spiritual conversation. Every item we consume, from a carton of milk to a smartphone, bears an energetic footprint. This includes the labor that produced it, the resources extracted, and the living beings affected along the supply chain. Historically, religions often regulated dietary habits to foster holiness or discipline kosher and halal standards in Abrahamic faiths, vegetarianism in certain Eastern traditions. These rules sometimes carried health and ethical considerations. Now, with advanced global logistics, we glimpse the sprawling networks behind everyday products. Many people realize that our choices can exploit laborers in distant lands or inflict immense suffering on animals in factory farms. The question then arises: if we claim empathy and spiritual growth, can we remain indifferent to the pain embedded in our meals and goods? Veganism, vegetarianism, or adopting a more plant-based diet resonates not only with animal welfare, but also with ecological balance. Minimizing animal agriculture reduces water and grain usage, curtails greenhouse gas emissions, and spares countless creatures from inhumane conditions. Observers note that those who shift diets often experience heightened clarity and empathy, perhaps because they reduce the frequency of suffering in their consumption. This shift is not about dogmatic purity. It's about alignment with the recognition that all life is interconnected. Yet we need not dwell solely on food. Conscious consumption extends to clothing, electronics, and transportation. It challenges the cheap, disposable culture that saturates landfills with plastic and electronic waste. Some individuals pivot toward minimalism, discovering that fewer possessions can yield greater peace. Others champion second-hand economies, local artisans, or zero-waste lifestyles. While these trends might seem radical, they reflect a deeper longing for coherence, living in a manner that matches our emerging spiritual and ethical understandings. This realignment also provokes systemic critiques. Why must a mindful consumer pay premium prices for ethically sourced products? Where do we collectively bear responsibility through policies or cultural norms to make compassionate consumption accessible rather than elitist? The Age of Aquarius, with its emphasis on equity, implies that we can devise economic structures that facilitate sustainability and compassion for all, not just for the privileged. Initiatives such as community-supported agriculture, fair trade certification, and cooperatives model how global markets can integrate fairness rather than perpetuate exploitation. In essence, reimagining consumption may be one of humanity's most vital tasks. Each purchase, each bite, each act of disposal resonates beyond personal gain. Religious teachings about shared stewardship or love for one's neighbor now merge with pressing ecological imperatives. And at a subtle level, each conscious choice adjusts our vibration, reinforcing habits of empathy and respect for life. While the shift may feel incremental, aggregated across millions of individuals, it can reshape entire supply chains. The Age of Aquarius thrives precisely on such decentralized collective empowerment, where grassroots changes ripple outward into global transformation. One cannot discuss the emergent frequency without addressing the notion of visionary architecture and infrastructure. From vertical farms to smart grids and beyond, the future of cities lies not merely in technological advancement, but in designing environments that nourish body, mind, and soul. For centuries, human architecture was guided primarily by utility or grandeur, fortified castles, sprawling suburbs, or high-rise towers built to cram in growing populations. Beauty and harmony sometimes appeared, yet ecological harmony often took a back seat to expansion. Today, the Aquarian impulse integrates form and function with the well-being of both inhabitants and the ecosystem. Biophilic design, for instance, underscores the innate human need to connect with nature. Incorporating living plants, natural light, fresh air circulation, and water features into buildings reduces stress and promotes health. Coupled with renewable energy sources, solar, wind, geothermal, such designs can render cities into net contributors to the planet's well-being. We witness examples in forward-thinking locales like Singapore, which invests in green roofs and vertical gardens, or Scandinavia, which pioneer carbon-neutral city blocks. Beyond aesthetics, architecture evolves into a healing modality. Think about hospital wards equipped with healing gardens or meditation nooks. Schools can be reimagined as creative hubs where children learn to plant seeds, harness solar power, and practice emotional regulation, not just memorize textbook facts. Even roads and transportation channels can be designed to minimize pollution and traffic stress, encouraging communal well-being. In many spiritual traditions, temples or monasteries were built according to sacred geometry, aligning with certain cosmic principles that purportedly elevate consciousness. Aquarian architects experiment with similar principles, bridging geometry, acoustics, and occupant psychology to uplift daily experiences. The synergy extends to technology. AI might monitor resource usage in real time, adjusting lighting temperature or irrigation to maintain balance. Wearable devices could gently nudge individuals toward hydration breaks or mindfulness, complementing the built environment's supportive design. However, as always, the guiding principle must be intention. If AI is deployed by profit-obsessed corporations, it might merely coerce consumer behavior or surveil populations. If guided by a collective ethos of resonance and empathy, it can become an ally in shaping spaces that embody harmony and efficient resource use. Critics may label such visions utopian, but from an Aquarian standpoint, what was once considered utopia simply describes a higher vibrational alignment. Just as societies in the past viewed running water and electricity as unimaginable luxuries, so do many view carbon-neutral, soul-nourishing cities as impractical today. Yet the impetus for transformation grows stronger as old city models prove unsustainable and soul-deadening. The new generation demands living spaces that reflect their values of freedom, creativity, and ecological compassion, attributes that mirror the cosmic turning toward Aquarius. By rethinking architecture and infrastructure. In these ways, we address not just practicality, but also the intangible need for inspiration. People flourish in environments that celebrate life, incorporate art and nature, and encourage interaction rather than isolation. Ancient cities often had communal squares or ritual spaces. Modern designs can replicate that communal spirit on a grand scale. In short, architecture no longer just houses life. It becomes a crucible for raising collective resonance, a stage set that cultivates peace, creativity, and connectivity among inhabitants. Paralleling these architectural innovations, radical societal models challenge economic and political assumptions. One prominent example is the Venus Project brainchild of futurist Jacques Fresco, envisioning a resource-based economy that transcends profit-oriented paradigms. In such a system, technology and resources are allocated to serve everyone's fundamental needs: food, shelter, education, healthcare, without the destructive competition inherent in monetary systems. For many, this concept may evoke skepticism given the entrenched capitalist frameworks. Yet the age of Aquarius posits an evolutionary leap beyond zero-sum mindsets. Critics argue that scarcity drives human invention, claiming that without competition, innovation stalls. However, what if cooperation fosters an even more robust creativity? The pressing ecological and social crises highlight the flaws in a system where billions struggle to survive while resources languish in surplus for the privileged few. Fresco's vision holds that scarcity in numerous cases is artificially maintained to boost profits. The Earth, abundant in sunlight, water cycles, and raw materials, could theoretically sustain everyone if distribution were guided by rational planning and ethical stewardship rather than by the pursuit of profit margins. Such radical shifts reflect Aquarian ideals on multiple levels. Spiritually, they resonate with religious teachings that instruct believers to share resources, care for the needy, and not hoard wealth. Philosophically, they challenge us to ponder whether the legacy of hierarchy, warfare, and exploitation has run its course. Practically, they require advanced technologies, AI-driven logistics, renewable energy grids, automated production lines to free humans from drudgery. In Aquarian thinking, that freedom is not meant for hedonism or laziness, but for intellectual, artistic, and spiritual exploration that uplifts society. Yet it's crucial to remember that structural change alone won't suffice if human consciousness remains bound by greed, fear, or apathy. The spiritual dimension of such models is that they demand a population mature enough to handle abundance ethically. No resource-based plan can thrive if participants manipulate it for personal gain. This is where the synergy of personal awakening merges with systemic reform. Only when individuals cultivate empathy and responsibility can such visionary economies flourish. We find glimpses of these principles in decentralized movements, open-source software, peer-to-peer networking, community land trusts that bypass central authorities, returning power to local or collective ownership. Even in politics, grassroots platforms experiment with consensus-driven governance. The limitations are real, but the seeds have been planted. The age of Aquarius reveals that possibility blooms where fear retreats, where scarcity-based belief systems dissolve, and where synergy outperforms competition. Hence, while the Venus Project might sound futuristic or unattainable, it reflects the cosmic impetus urging us to break from outdated mental constructs. What if entire civilizations revolve around well-being instead of profit? The question is no longer rhetorical. As older structures falter under their own weight, new frameworks, though nascent, stand ready. The impetus for acceptance grows stronger as humanity recognizes that continuing with the status quo may lead to ecological collapse or perpetual injustice. In unveiling these alternative visions, we see reflections of Aquarian consciousness in motion, radical, inclusive, and guided by the principle that life thrives most when resources and ideas flow freely. Taking a broader perspective, the creative impulse itself. Art, music, dance, storytelling assumes a heightened significance in this reoriented age. Long relegated by modern industrial culture to the domain of entertainment or luxury, art is in truth a fundamental expression of the human spirit. In prehistoric caves, tribal gatherings and sacred temples, our ancestors used creative acts as gateways to the divine. Whether they painted on stone walls or enacted myths through ritual dances, creativity served as a ceremonial channel for energies beyond words. The Age of Aquarius reignites that ancient recognition. Yes, we still produce commercialized songs and mass-market movies, but beneath the commercial veneer, a deeper undercurrent stirs. True artistry resonates with frequencies that bypass rational defenses. It awakens subtle layers of feeling and memory. Consider how a simple melody might evoke tears or goosebumps, tapping into vibrations of nostalgia, universal longing, or cosmic wonder. Such experiences highlight that art goes beyond aesthetics. It can be soul, medicine, an alchemical process, bridging the visible and invisible. Many spiritual lineages name artists as modern shamans, pointing out that they cross boundaries between ordinary consciousness and hidden realms. Some translate intangible visions into paintings that prompt spiritual revelations in viewers. Others craft music that resonates with the harmonic structure of the universe, realigning listeners' chakras or energy fields. In an age dominated by data, the ephemeral, emotional, and mystical messages embedded in art can open hearts more effectively than mere argument. With established systems unsteady, people crave meaning that transcends facts and figures. Art provides that meaning. We see an explosion of murals highlighting social injustice, photographic essays capturing the essence of climate change's human impact, and performance pieces that question the limitations of identity. Art can poke at our complacency, dissolving illusions we didn't realize we harbored. By conjuring metaphors and symbols, it speaks to the soul, a conversation that no purely rational discourse can replicate. Digital platforms allow artists to bypass traditional gatekeepers, sharing their creations worldwide in seconds. This democratization echoes Aquarius's egalitarian bent. Yet the flip side is an inundation of content. The shift in focus must be from chasing likes to generating resonance. Sincere artistry, born from a place of alignment, carries an energetic code that resonates with viewers. Stripped of commercial packaging, it becomes a sacred practice, inviting collective healing and insight. Ultimately, the interplay of art in the Age of Aquarius underscores that creation is more than product. It is a transformative act. We are all potential artists in some dimension, writers, dancers, storytellers, visionaries, tapping into universal streams and shaping them into forms others can experience. Through the lens of cosmic evolution, each creative act transmits a frequency that contributes to the mosaic of global consciousness. The more that artists anchor their process in authenticity rather than performance, the more they serve as conduits of awakening. For decades, talk of UFOs and extraterrestrial encounters was dismissed as fringe or delusional. Governments denied, skeptics scoffed, and the mainstream relegated such discussions to conspiracy theories. Yet, recent revelations in the form of declassified documents, pilot testimonies, and congressional hearings suggest a gradual pivot in official narratives. The question transitions from "Are UFOs real?" to "Why are they here?" and "Why now?" From an Aquarian standpoint, the timing is hardly arbitrary. Ancient lore across civilizations frequently alludes to star beings or sky visitors imparting wisdom. The Dogon people of Mali mysteriously understood the Sirius star system before telescopes could confirm its specifics. Ancient Indian epics described flying machines called vimanas. Sumerian tablets spoke of gods descending from the heavens to shape human destiny. These references read like myth to modern eyes until our own scientific vantage suggests that our universe teems with countless planets and solar systems, raising the possibility that advanced life could be more fact than fantasy. In this grand cosmic drama, disclosure becomes not so much an event orchestrated by governmental authorities, but a stage in human readiness. If advanced interstellar cultures exist, they likely gauge our vibrational alignment. A civilization still entrenched in aggression, ignorance, or fear may not be ready for open contact. The bridging factor is consciousness. The more we expand, the more we resonate with higher frequencies that might guide or unify with off-planet intelligence. Instead of landing on government lawns to prove existence, they might subtly observe, waiting for humanity to outgrow its warlike or exploitative tendencies. Thus, the age of Aquarius sets the tone for cosmic awareness. As we acknowledge entanglement at quantum scales and sense synergy with Earth's frequency, we realize we might similarly connect with star families. In a sense, we re-enter a galactic conversation, one from which we have been isolated by the illusions of our own smallness. Disclosure in the media reports of objects defying known physics interviews with credible witnesses marks a step toward reacquainting ourselves with that broader cosmic tapestry. Yet caution is wise. Humanity's track record of encountering the unknown includes fear-based aggression and attempts at control. Should alien life appear, the critical question is not about proof, but about our collective heart. Will we respond with curiosity, humility, and a desire for mutual enlightenment, or with hostility rooted in archaic paradigms of conquest? Religious teachings often interpret angels or divine messengers descending to impart revelations. Could we face something akin to that scenario in a more literal interstellar sense? Regardless of the specifics, the Aquarian impetus to expand beyond anthropocentric illusions stand firm. We are not the apex of creation, nor are we alone. Contact with extraterrestrial intelligences, if it blossoms, represents a natural extension of evolutionary consciousness, challenging each of us to transcend provincial mindsets. And even if open contact never comes in the ways people fantasize, the potential invite us to refine ourselves, for cosmic citizenship demands moral and spiritual maturity. In that sense, the phenomenon of UFOs or UAP is not just about them. It is very much about us, who we must become to engage responsibly and benevolently within a larger galactic environment. Another cornerstone of the Aquarian shift is the rise of what some call the silent revolution. In old revolutionary models, masses took to the streets brandishing weapons or slogans. Such movements, while they affected some historical changes, often replaced one form of oppression with another. The Age of Aquarius fosters a different revolution, one that begins in living rooms, quiet personal reflections, and daily decisions. Instead of overthrowing regimes through force, people dismantle illusions from within by realigning with truth. This revolution is silent not because it lacks strength, but because it advances through consciousness rather than conflict. It's a mother rethinking how she feeds her children, questioning processed foods, and adopting organic, mindful nourishment. It's a teacher who, instead of following rigid curricula, incorporates meditative practices or emotional skills training. It's an elder who reconciles old grudges, thus breaking generational cycles of resentment. Each act, seemingly small, accumulates into a seismic shift in collective resonance. Established power structures aided by media or institutional narratives have historically subdued rebellions by targeting leaders, censoring speech, or controlling information. The silent revolution subverts these tactics. because it has no centralized headquarters or figurehead. It spreads organically, one awakened heart at a time. By the time authorities notice the old illusions no longer carry the same influence, the system falters not from violent assault, but from widespread disengagement. People simply stop believing, participating, or obeying outworn frameworks. This dynamic is reminiscent of the concept that you cannot arrest or eliminate love awareness or personal sovereignty. Even in times of oppression, spiritual traditions taught that no external force can truly dominate one's inner state. The silent revolution harnesses this principle. No matter how ubiquitous surveillance or media manipulation becomes consciousness when awakened acts beyond those constraints. This does not mean ignoring social action or policy making. Rather, it underscores that the root of lasting change is internal alignment, out of which meaningful external actions naturally emerge. We witness the silent revolution at work as people opt out of exploitative financial systems by supporting local cooperatives or reduce reliance on big agriculture by planting community gardens. Even if politicians remain entangled in gridlock, the silent revolution paves alternative pathways. Others might adopt new forms of education or homeschooling guided by curiosity and empathy rather than rote compliance. When enough of these micro-shifts occur, society experiences a macro transformation without the typical hallmarks of revolution riots, bloodshed, or dictatorial overthrows. A spiritual dimension undergirds this quiet rebellion. The push to know oneself to heal, shadows to live in alignment with compassion, births a populace less prone to fear-based manipulation. Freed from anxiety and propelled by authenticity, individuals coalesce into networks that address communal challenges. This synergy forms the bedrock of Aquarian activism, changing the world by changing how we show up within it. Over time, the friction that kept society in stagnant patterns dissipates, replaced by solutions that reflect unity and creativity. So the revolution manifests in daily conversations, small acts of generosity, truth-telling that dissolves false narratives, and a refusal to perpetuate old cycles of harm. By the time this wave surfaces in the mainstream, its momentum is unstoppable, shifting power dynamics in ways previously thought inconceivable. It's not about overthrowing so much as outgrowing. We leave behind oppressive structures simply because we no longer vibrate at their frequency. A recurring sentiment in these evolving discourses is that the age of Aquarius was never an event reserved for future generations. It's happening right now. Old systems are disintegrating at an accelerating pace, and new frequencies call us to align with them. That alignment is not theoretical, it's practical. How do we treat one another in mundane interactions? Are we anchored in fear, or do we approach challenges with love? The cosmic shift might appear grandiose on an astronomical scale, yet it unfolds in the heart of each person, deciding how to live their everyday life. We observe illusions of separation dissolve under the spotlight of collective awakening. People once rigidly tethered to tribal identities, ethnic, national, religious, discover threads of common humanity that transcend differences. The realization dawns that we have more in common with strangers across the globe than we do with outdated narratives that stoke division. This revelation can be both exhilarating and unsettling as it removes the comforting boundaries that once defined our sense of belonging. Community efforts illustrate this bridging process. Grassroots groups unite individuals from diverse backgrounds to tackle social, environmental, or spiritual initiatives. Stereotypical labels fade in significance when the shared goal is vibrant, cleaning a beach, nurturing an urban garden, or establishing a meditation center open to all. Technology, though previously maligned for creating echo chambers, also fosters cross-cultural collaborations. People discover resonance with others half a world away, forging digital tribes of like-minded souls who exchange insights, tools, and moral support. From a metaphysical standpoint, these emerging communities act as fractals of a higher blueprint. When we gather in alignment with values of compassion, curiosity, and sustainability, we tune into the Aquarian frequency. Each meeting, each shared meal, each collaborative project weaves an energetic tapestry that subtly transforms local environments. The sense of powerless isolation that once plagued many dissolves in the face of collective creativity. While old institutions stand uncertain of how to respond, the unstoppable tide of new consciousness expands. Our personal evolution under this cosmic impetus is seldom linear. We might find ourselves enthusiastically involved in community changes, only to backslide into old habits under stress or heartbreak. But each cycle of regression invites deeper learning and greater resilience. The momentum does not vanish, it recalibrates. Over time, these expansions and contractions integrate into a more stable embodiment of Aquarian energies. Moreover, the call to embrace our cosmic identity resonates with the disintegration of purely materialistic or reductionist worldviews. It's not that science is invalid, on the contrary. Science is evolving to meet the mysteries that dogmatic materialism once dismissed. Similarly, spirituality is shedding dogmatism to incorporate empirical insights. As walls between science and mysticism crumble, we explore how cosmic energies affect human biology, how meditation influences neurochemistry, or how collective consciousness might shape social outcomes. Ultimately, to say the age of Aquarius is here means acknowledging a present reality in which everything feels new, uncharted, and pregnant with potential. The future is no longer an abstract tomorrow, but an unfolding that we orchestrate in real time. The old question, when will the Aquarian age arrive, becomes moot. It's already arrived, whispering in our dreams, weaving through our relationships, and stirring fresh possibilities in every domain of life. Every choice we make in these transitional times radiates outward in ways that perhaps never felt so immediate before. If indeed all is energy, if thoughts and emotions carry their own frequencies, then in each moment we broadcast signals into the shared field. In prior epochs, we believed power was concentrated in external hierarchies, governments, religious institutions, corporate conglomerates. Yet the age of Aquarius suggests the epicenter of change lies within personal alignment. This recognition dismantles the myth of helplessness. Governments may pass laws, but if enough people shift their consciousness, entire structures pivot to accommodate the new frequency or become obsolete. Similarly, corporations can create products, but if public demand originates from a higher ethic, those products must adapt. The gist, external realms follow the internal shift. Our thoughts, our quiet decisions like which brand we buy, how we treat a passerby, how we respond to a child's curiosity, carry weight in creating the texture of collective reality. Hence, what frequency are you choosing right now is not a rhetorical question. It is the axis upon which destiny can spin. Are we amplifying fear with catastrophic predictions? Or do we anchor hope by envisioning solutions? Are we fueling anger by demonizing those who disagree? Or do we engage them with respectful curiosity? Are we fixated on scarcity? or do we expand into generosity? Each posture shapes the field of possibilities. This concept resonates with the teachings of many sages, from Buddhist loving-kindness practices to Christian admonitions of love your neighbor. It's not naive idealism, it's energetic realism. Yes, we remain participants in a material world facing crises, climate threats, socio-economic disparities, health challenges. But from an Aquarian standpoint, we do not bury our heads in escapist spirituality. We meet these issues rooted in a frequency of clarity and compassion, trusting that the solutions, be they technological breakthroughs, policy reforms, or cultural evolutions, emerge more readily when we hold the resonance of unity rather than fragmentation. While action in the outer sphere remains crucial, it becomes infinitely more effective when accompanied by an inner coherence that transmits synergy rather than division. This synergy is the essence of the quiet revolution. We do not circumvent hardships or complexities. We transmute them by refusing to feed negativity with panic or blame. Instead, we cultivate equanimity and vision, tapping into the creative domain of mind, body, spirit. For instance, activists who embody calm determination can create dialogues that break cycles of conflict. Teachers who approach youth with empathy can transform educational systems from the inside out. Innovators who meditate might channel breakthroughs that integrate technology with ecological stewardship. We see this principle of coherence in nature. Flocks of birds or schools of fish move as a harmonious whole without centralized control, guided by subtle signals. Imagine if humanity learned to navigate society in a similar flow, each individual maintaining a vibrant yet coherent sense of self, attuned to the collective. The age of Aquarius invites precisely that synergy. Individuals stepping into sovereignty while collectively forming a global dance that fosters balanced creativity and reciprocal well-being. As the old frequency recedes, we find ourselves increasingly called to step up with mindful presence. One breath, one choice, one heartbeat at a time. In the final analysis, the Age of Aquarius underscores the concept that our civilization stands at a threshold, a liminal space between what was and what can be. Birth is seldom neat. It can be messy, involving tears, blood, and the rawness of creation. This universal truth applies to cosmic births as well. Old systems thrash in their last attempts to remain relevant, generating waves of confusion. Meanwhile, the scaffolding of a new paradigm arises in the strangest of places, a community that transitions to local food systems, an online forum discussing quantum healing, or an entrepreneur designing renewable energy solutions for marginalized communities. From an esoteric vantage, this transitional period might appear chaotic, but it also teems with potential. The illusions of scarcity unravel, replaced by glimpses of abundance. People experiment with cryptocurrencies, mutual aid networks, and alternative housing solutions. Religious communities reconsider dogmatic rules, opening themselves to interfaith dialogues and recognizing the universal spirit that underlies diverse teachings. Educators embrace holistic approaches, acknowledging that children's emotional intelligence is just as critical as reading or math proficiency. We see big shifts in how we define progress. In a Piscean world, progress might have been measured by infrastructure growth or expansions of empire. In an Aquarian world, progress looks more like improved well-being, reduced exploitation, richer creativity, and deeper interconnection. Such intangible metrics, once dismissed as soft, become the pillars of thriving societies. Laughter, mental health, community bonding. Environmental regeneration. These define success in the emergent eras. Amidst the swirling transitions, many people wonder, what do I do? Where do I direct my energy? Perhaps the best response is to anchor in presence, attend to your immediate sphere, and respond to the callings that stir your inner excitement or empathy. The cosmic shift unfolds through authentic, heartfelt actions, not elaborate master plans. And ironically, from those local heart-centered efforts, grand transformations scale upward because energy resonates, attracting kindred frequency. Also, a crucial dimension is self-forgiveness. We have all participated in older patterns of consumerism, competition, or judgment. We might have unwittingly contributed to a system we now renounce. Guilt can paralyze growth. Aquarian thinking posits that each moment offers a fresh choice. We can rectify our relationship with the earth, with animals, with each other, not by succumbing to shame, but by reorienting our daily conduct. This orientation fosters humility, the willingness to learn anew, and the grace to allow ourselves to evolve. Ultimately, crossing the threshold requires trust in our internal guidance, in the universal process that orchestrates evolutions, and in humanity's inherent capacity for rebirth. It demands we perceive cracks in the old world, not as harbingers of doom, but as fissures where light seeps in, warming seeds of possibility. In religious scriptures, cataclysms often precede divine revelations or golden ages. While modern society lacks that mythic framing, the pattern remains. Breakdown can be the conduit for breakthrough, provided we keep our hearts open and our frequency aligned with growth rather than despair. With the recognition that personal and collective frequencies shape reality, many individuals revisit the role of art and expression from a more ceremonial perspective. Herein lies the impetus for an art as ceremony renaissance, a reminder that creativity once served not just to entertain, but to link the mundane in the sacred. The archetype of the artist shaman or artist priest re-emerges, validating the notion that painting, writing, dancing, or singing can be sacred acts that transmit healing wisdom and revelation. Historically, cave drawings and tribal masks were not made to impress. They were spiritual tools. They invoked protective deities, recounted cosmic myths, or recorded visionary journeys. In Christian cathedrals, stained glass windows told biblical sagas shaping the faith of illiterate congregants. In Eastern temples, elaborate mandalas guided practitioners into meditative states. These artistic endeavors transcended function. They vibrated with intention, as the Aquarian age recalls. Such truths, modern creators approach their work with reverence, embedding conscious codes or energies into forms. Practical examples abound. Musicians infuse their compositions with frequencies aligned to specific chakras or healing intentions. Filmmakers explore narratives that depict spiritual growth or cosmic wonder, bridging entertainment and enlightenment. Moralists transform bleak urban walls into vibrant depictions of unity or ecological harmony. Listeners, viewers, passers-by may experience a subtle shift just by engaging these artworks, sometimes describing them as calming, uplifting, or even life-altering. The intangible becomes tangible through creative expression. In parallel, the internet democratizes the spread of art. While it can also cheapen authenticity by rewarding superficial trends, it simultaneously allows visionary creators to bypass industry gatekeepers. Platforms like YouTube, Patreon, or decentralized blockchain galleries let artists directly reach supportive audiences. This fosters a labyrinth of creative exchange, echoing an Aquarian ethos of decentralization and communal synergy. Where large record labels or art curators once monopolized culture, independent creators can now cultivate niche, dedicated communities that resonate deeply. Of course, this phenomenon raises a question: how do we discern meaningful art from manipulative or low-vibrational content? The answer lies in our own internal guidance. When we engage with a piece of art, we pay attention to how it makes us feel energetically. Do we sense expansion, clarity, or curiosity? Or do we sense fear, numbing, or superficial distraction? Spiritual traditions highlight that truth resonates a sentiment that the heart can register, even if the mind cannot articulate it immediately. As creative acts rejoin the ceremonial domain, communities can transform everyday gatherings into micro-festivals of consciousness. Imagine group singing not as performance, but as group prayer or alignment. Visual art workshops become spaces for collective healing where painting or sculpting channels internal processes. The ephemeral nature of festivals like Burning Man or large-scale gatherings underscores that the real magic is not the artifact, but the experiential synergy. When ephemeral art ignites an awakening, the intangible residue lingers in participants' psyches long after structures burn or stages come down. All of this weaves back to the age of Aquarius, calling, "We are not spectators in a cosmic drama, but active participants weaving new realities." Creative ceremony stands at the forefront of this weaving. By reclaiming art's sacred dimension, we unlock a potent avenue for soul-level transformation, reminding us that this era is not about passive consumption, but about active, joyful co-creation with the forces of life itself. Continuing the discussion of cosmic alignment, we encounter the synergy between disclosure and cosmic readiness. Far from being confined to UFO sightings, disclosure embraces any unveiling of hidden knowledge, including suppressed historical truths, classified technologies, or cosmic phenomena. The impetus driving these revelations is not sensationalism, but an expanded awareness that demands honesty over secrecy. In the age of Aquarius, illusions crumble not by conquest, but by the unstoppable force of shared curiosity and rising consciousness. Consider the parallels with apocalypse narratives in various scriptures. Apocalypse originally means unveiling. Eschatological texts depict times when illusions fall away, false prophets are exposed, and deeper truths emerge. Modern parallels include repeated leaks exposing governmental or corporate misdeeds, or even popular media investigating once taboo subjects. Though fear can flourish in such uncertain terrain, the central lesson is that unveiling leads to liberation if approached with discernment and compassion. This notion extends to possible interplanetary relationships. Suppose humankind is on the verge of bridging with extraterrestrial intelligence, the alignment must proceed beyond official statements. It must rest on our collective vibrational maturity, implying we have outgrown our predisposition to frame the unknown as hostile. Practically, that can manifest in how societies handle differences. Do we demonize or do we dialogue? If we still cannot handle diversity on Earth, how can we manage the shock of truly alien forms of life? Hence, cosmic contact is intimately tied to spiritual evolution. Some UFO enthusiasts crave a spectacle or an intervention like star visitors sweeping in to fix our problems. But that posture recycles the Piscean hope in external saviors. Aquarius would remind us that cosmic siblings might serve as guides or partners, not as paternalistic figures. The ultimate question is not, are we alone, but are we prepared for a universe of infinite diversity and potential communion? The broader theme of disclosure is thus more internal than external. While official acknowledgements or technological reveals might fill headlines, the real shift is in how we process new information. Do we spiral into paranoia, or do we use revelations as opportunities to refine understanding, unify perspectives, and align with higher truths? The more anchored we are in self-sovereignty, the less easily manipulated by fear-based narratives we become. This is crucial because times of unveiling often see opportunists spin information to stoke division or manipulate outcomes. In effect, disclosure ties back to personal frequency management. Each newly revealed secret or cosmic clue can either destabilize or catalyze further growth. If individuals train in emotional regulation, mindful thinking, and heart-centered living, they can assimilate these revelations constructively. That assimilation fosters readiness for broader cosmic membership, be it advanced science, telepathic contact, or forging alliances that transcend earthly politics. At its core, disclosure is not an event or a phenomenon. It is an invitation to step beyond illusions and embody a new baseline of truth-seeking empathy and cosmic curiosity. Consider that the greatest revolution may not be a cataclysmic breakdown, but a graceful, silent blossoming of consciousness. Historical revolutions often highlight how oppression reached intolerable levels, leading masses to revolt. The Aquarian Revolution, by contrast, unfolds quietly as people pivot from fear to presence, from passivity to creativity, from cynicism to wonder. This unstoppable tide emerges not from a single manifesto, but from millions of micro-choices made each day. The notion that the most powerful revolution will not be televised speaks volumes. Traditional media thrives on drama, conflict, and sensational events. Yet a shift in consciousness is subtle. There may be no bombs, no sudden downfall of governments. Instead, entire systems collapse from within as people outgrow them. Old propaganda loses grip when individuals see through illusions. Consumers no longer respond to manipulative marketing, preferring authenticity and direct communication. The shift is so pervasive that by the time mainstream outlets recognize it, the underpinnings of the old frequency have long eroded. We see personal narratives that illustrate this infiltration of new consciousness. Someone leaves a high-paying but soul-depleting job to start a regenerative farm. Another ends a generational cycle of abuse by opting for therapy and conscious parenting. Others gather to form eco-villages or online hubs that exchange skills free of charge. Though quiet, each transformation weaves a new social fabric. Aquarian synergy amplifies these changes, linking them across borders and cultures, forging a global web of awakened living. Even within mainstream systems, seeds of evolution sprout. Healthcare professionals champion integrative medicine, bridging holistic therapies with conventional science. Certain tech companies pivot to open collaboration, focusing on shared progress over cutthroat competition. Schools experiment with mindfulness programs, noticing calmer, more focused students. Where older structures stand intransigent, parallel initiatives arise and eventually overshadow them. This is how an outdated frequency fades not by forceful overthrow, but by making it irrelevant. This process mirrors spiritual teachings about co-creating reality. If masses of individuals embody a higher vibration, the older systems starve of the collective emotional energy they once harvested. Fear-based media loses its audience. Authoritarian leaders find fewer willing subordinates, and exploitative corporations see profits dwindle. The energy that once sustained these institutions reroutes into conscious alternatives. Replacing them is not a top-down decree, but an organic reorganization guided by awakened hearts. The complexity of this silent revolution is that it requires no single roadmap. Each local expression is unique. One community might pioneer local currency, another invests in educational reform, a third develops advanced eco-friendly infrastructure. Aquarian essence embraces diversity, trusting that a coherent mosaic emerges when each region or group follows its authentic calling. Tuning into personal resonance replaces rigid ideological uniformity, thereby circumventing the pitfalls of older revolutions that imposed a single doctrine. At some juncture, we step back and notice that a metamorphosis has happened. People recall the old ways as if they were a bad dream. The unstoppable nature of this revolution lies in its invisibility to those fixated on external power. When confronted by illusions, it operates from an inner vantage fueled by the cosmic impetus that the time for the higher consciousness has arrived. Central to stepping into this new frequency is the art of personal embodiment. Many read books or watched videos about Aquarius cosmic cycles or spiritual awakening. Yet if these ideas remain intellectual, they lack transformative power. Genuine embodiment means aligning daily actions, emotions, and thoughts with the high principles one espouses. It translates cosmic truths into lived experience, from how we greet a neighbor to how we handle stress or conflict. Embodiment often begins with physical awareness, observing posture, breathing nutrition, and movement. In older epochs, spirituality sometimes encouraged transcendence of the body, portraying it as a hindrance or a vessel of sin. But Aquarian paradigms revolve around integration, recognizing the body as an antenna that both receives and broadcasts frequencies. When we treat our bodies with respect, fueling them with living foods and mindful movement, we tune ourselves for clearer energetic reception. Traditional yoga qigong or modern forms of somatic therapy all remind us that spiritual growth also involves bodily intelligence. Next, emotional embodiment requires acknowledging the feelings we experience rather than suppressing or bypassing them with superficial positivity. Emotions serve as signals revealing internal truths. If we perpetually feel anxiety, perhaps we are absorbing collective dissonance or ignoring an authentic calling. If anger flares, it may highlight boundaries that need reinforcement. Each feeling approached with compassion becomes an ally rather than an obstacle. Mentally embodying new consciousness entails rewiring thought patterns. Affirmations, constructive self-talk, and disciplined focus might replace ruminations on fear or scarcity. Still, intellectual mastery alone doesn't seal the deal. It must descend into the heart. That's where true empathy, vulnerability, and connection take root, helping us realize our interdependence not just as a concept, but as a lived truth. Socially, embodiment manifests when we bring these qualities into relationships. Instead of repeating old scripts during arguments or challenges, we pause, breathe, and respond from a higher perspective. This shift might initially surprise partners, friends, or colleagues accustomed to habitual dynamics. Yet over time, it forges deeper trust and authenticity. Even in broader circles, workplaces, neighborhoods, this consistent presence can diffuse tension and inspire open communication. Our personal frequency becomes a stabilizing force. Many spiritual icons throughout history taught through example more than doctrine. Whether it's the Buddha sitting in serene equanimity or Jesus extending radical compassion, their transformations impacted those around them not by mere words, but by vibrational demonstration. The Age of Aquarius invites each of us to embody that role in our small corners, carrying cosmic wisdom into the mundane. This is how large-scale shift happens, not through grand proclamations, but consistent, genuine living. In bridging cosmic knowledge with daily embodiment, we ground the ephemeral. We cease to treat spirituality as a mental or occasional practice and weave it into every thread of our being. Over time, our surroundings reflect this shift. Supportive communities form systemic changes, accelerate, and ephemeral theories crystallize into real solutions. Embodiment crystallizes the intangible into matter, a cosmic principle reminiscent of the mystical idea that the word becomes flesh. Likewise, Aquarian ideals become tangible only when each of us embodies them in the micro-choices of everyday life. Ultimately, the Age of Aquarius acts as a mirror, reflecting back to us the infinite possibilities waiting within. It beckons us to see beyond illusions of separation, stagnation, or hierarchical constraints, from cosmic cycles to personal awakenings, from quiet revolutions to mindful consumption, from the rebirth of the divine feminine to the bridging of science and spirituality. Each facet whispers the same message. Remember who you truly are. That question, who are you, has loomed in spiritual traditions for millennia, but in this era, it resonates in new ways. We are not mere bodies at the mercy of random forces, nor are we solely rational minds trapped in deterministic mechanics. We are multidimensional beings, carriers of a cosmic inheritance far grander than any label. The unraveling of old constructs is less about destruction and more about revealing that which was hidden: our inherent creative power, our unbreakable unity, and our capacity to shape reality through consciousness. Yet stepping into this truth is not a static achievement. Like breathing, it requires cyclical renewal. Each day invites reconnection, a mindful moment to choose alignment over autopilot, to expand rather than retreat. The more we do this, the more gracefully we navigate life's flux. We cease perceiving change as a threat and welcome it as the energetic dance that spurs collective evolution. Rather than dread uncertain futures, we sense them as canvases upon which cosmic intelligence and human imagination converge. If a single closing question remains, it might be, how will you choose to respond to this cosmic invitation? Will you linger in nostalgia for old certainties, or dare to pioneer new territories within yourself? Will you drain your energy, fighting illusions, or channel your gifts into forging realities that reflect empathy, innovation, and cosmic wonder? The Age of Aquarius does not impose answers. It offers potentialities. Just as a gardener sows seeds, we each sow vibrational seeds in the collective field through our intentions, words, and actions. As illusions fall away, a luminous horizon emerges. We see glimpses of societies rooted in compassion, technology, guided by benevolence, interpersonal connections that heal rather than harm, and an earth restored to vibrant equilibrium. Skeptics may label this vision naive, but the impetus of cosmic cycles is unrelenting. Evolution surges onward, unstoppable, beckoning each generation to rise to the challenge. The question is not whether the new frequency will take root, but how gracefully we will dance with it. Thus, the final gift of this Aquarian revelation is empowerment we choose. We can cling to the collapsing or embrace the rebirthing. We can remain asleep or awaken to a grander destiny that myth and mystic prophet and scientist have all prophesied in their own dialects. The cosmic wheel turns, Earth aligns with star currents, and souls worldwide pulse with that alignment. Through every breath, Every choice we affirm, whether we are passive spectators or conscious co-creators of humanity's next chapter. In the end, the invitation stands become the new, human, radiant, resilient, and ready to remember the cosmic heritage etched in your very cells. After exploring these transformative insights together, it's clearer than ever we're standing at the threshold of incredible possibilities. This isn't just theory. It's a real, meaningful shift happening right now within each of us. Personally, I feel deeply encouraged knowing we're not passive observers, but active creators of our collective future. Remember, change begins with us, right here, right now. Each choice, no matter how small, sends powerful ripples into the world around us. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Did this resonate with your own experiences? How are you feeling these shifts in your life? Let's start a conversation in the comments below, because your perspective matters deeply to this community. Thanks for being here today. Your presence means the world. Until next time, stay open, stay curious, and above all, stay hopeful.